I'm involved in team and training because 15 years ago I swallowed the first effective TKI, now known as Gleevec. And I was diagnosed 2 years before that and was supposed to die 3 years after my diagnosis. Haha, I fooled him. And it was because of people like you. And that's why I'm in the fight, too. And speaking of I consider myself a tough person, but I know somebody even tougher. His name is Tyler Cordova. He's standing right over there. I met Tyler when he was on a teammate of our San Gabriel Valley team, and I think he was only 5 years old. Tyler and his mom Holly, come on up.
Hi, everyone. This is honestly one of Tyler's favorite things to do is to come to the team and training parties because you guys really know how to party. And some of you we have met, others we haven't. So forgive me if you've heard some of this story before, but Tyler is a pretty tough guy. He was diagnosed when he was 4 years old. We had to rush him to the hospital because he couldn't breathe. And what we found is that he had a tumor filling up his chest, and it was wrapped around his heart. He couldn't breathe, and they really didn't know that night. They said it was touch and go. We had a lot of touch and go moments, but I'll tell you, it wasn't until he was about 10 years old, so 6 years before we could all just take a breath. Before that, he was in treatment continuously. He had, I just don't even know how many years of him being in the hospital. 3 different hospitals, yes. Chemo, radiation, bone marrow transplant. I'm so grateful to be the match. He's been through it all, and I got to tell you, he's a rock star because he did not spend a minute feeling sorry for himself. And I remember once when he was in the hospital, he had just had full body radiation, and that really knocked him out, and so he was sleeping a lot. And every time he woke up, he'd go, I just can't wake up. I keep going back to sleep, and he'd go back. And finally, my sister said, Tyler, why do you need to wake up? Why don't you just sleep? And he said, I have to get going with my day. I have things to do. This is him in the hospital. So this is really representative of all of the kids that we have met that are going through cancer. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. Do they get mad? They absolutely get mad. I remember once when Tyler, I believe Virginia was there actually, we thought he was going to get released, and then he had a setback. And the doctor came in and told him that he was going to need to stay in the hospital longer. And Tyler promptly wrote a letter to the doctor telling him he had no business being a doctor and he should work in a rock quarry. This was 5-year-old Tyler. They find their ways of dealing. But through it all, he just kept moving forward. And I have to tell you, there were a lot of hard times during all of that, but there were a lot of blessings too. And one of the biggest blessings for us was getting involved with team and training very early. And Tyler really saw the example that you all set. You're coming out there, you're getting going with your day. Every Saturday morning, you're getting up in the dark to come out and make these things happen. And that really stuck with Tyler. Even when he was in active treatment and literally couldn't walk, he was still out there raising money for charity. To date, he's raised over $100,000 for cancer charity. And I'm so proud of him, and I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so grateful. I can't tell you how much we appreciate everything you've done because of you and what you're doing, Tyler's here with me today, being a slightly annoying preteen. Do you want to say anything? Go team! Yay!
Thank you, Tyler and Holly. I've adopted Tyler. I don't think he minds, right? Next, we have, we all need to send some good wishes to little Asher, who is home with a fever, but his mom Cindy is here and his brother. And I'd like to welcome them up to talk about Asher. Asher's on, if you look along the mini posters there, there's a picture of Asher in a tree that's really cute.
Hi. I know some of you I've seen before and have been at these events before, so I apologize if you've heard the story before. But my youngest son, Asher, who, as Virginia said, is not here because he has been battling a fever. We were actually at City of Hope last night with 102 fever. Asher was diagnosed with Philadelphia positive chronic myeloid leukemia in 2009 when he was 4 years old. It's the same type of leukemia that Virginia has. When Asher was diagnosed, it was completely unexpected. He, again, was very active little 4-year-old, and he had some leg pain, which we thought was growing pains. And then it progressed to a point during a Thanksgiving break that he couldn't even put his leg down or walk. So we went to the emergency room, and we were rushed through triage and put in a room. And they did blood work and took x-rays, and the doctor came in and said, there's no easy way to tell you this, but your son has leukemia, and we're arranging a transport to Children's Hospital to find out what type of leukemia it was. So that night, we were in the hospital just waiting for the ambulance. And when we were taken over to Children's Hospital, they ran some tests and did a bone marrow biopsy and found out that it was Philadelphia positive CML. We were also told that it was extremely rare in children to have that type of leukemia, and he was the youngest in California at the time to be diagnosed with it. The good news was that because of research and developments, we got to go home 3 days after his official diagnosis with a medication called Gleevec. And we were given a bunch of instructions and told to monitor him and see if this would work. So we went home with Gleevec. There were a lot of side effects. Asher being so young, some of the side effects they didn't know to expect. Lots of bone pain, lots of nerve pain, extreme nausea, lots of weight loss. Asher had actually, when he was 5 years old, he was only wearing a size 3 toddler and was really weak and anemic. But his cancer numbers the leukemia counts had come down, and we were told that the medication was working and we were moving along. Almost a year to the date of his diagnosis, we found out that his counts were coming back up and the medication was failing, and we needed to go in for a bone marrow transplant consultation. At that time, luckily we were told that there was a secondary medication that we could try, Sprycel or dasatinib, and there was a clinical trial opening up at CHOC, and instead of a bone marrow biopsy, they were recommending us trying the second type of treatment. So we did that. We started at CHOC in January of 2011, and his numbers came back down immediately. He started gaining weight. His color came back. He was tolerating this medication much better than he was tolerating Gleevec. He still has a lot of side effects from the medicine, nerve pain mostly, and he's on medications to combat that. But after about 3 months of being on Sprycel, we found out he was in cytogenic remission, which means that the cells are still in there, but when they go and do the bone marrow biopsies or the blood test, the PCR test, the counts show almost undetectable. And we have been in the clinical trial for 3 years now. Asher remains in cytogenic remission. He's still very active. He's almost 10 years old now. And the only reason he's not here is because he's home with a fever. Otherwise, he would be running and climbing on tables and trying to climb trees like he's doing in the picture over there. So I thank you all very much for raising money for the research, because without the money, without the research, I wouldn't have the time that I've had with my son and potentially be on the verge of curing his cancer. So one day, hopefully, he won't be taking medication anymore.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm really sorry Asher isn't here, because he is just a joy to watch. It makes me tired just watching him. So that's our point. That's why we're here. That's our reason for existing, is stories like Tyler's and Asher's, and mine too. and others of you out there who I know who you are. And so speaking of that, are there any people here that would like to introduce their honoree? Do we have some honorees here today? Yay!
Hi all. I am proud and happy to introduce our very own Audrey Duffy of Team Audrey. Come up here. How many of you are on Team Audrey this season?
Yeah!
Woo! Yes. I can't recount your story, but I know that it is a long road, and I know that I have been your friend for a long time. I met you through Team in Training, and I am proud to say that I'm on Team Audrey and hoping to find a cure for your non-curable non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Thank you.
Audrey, come back here. Audrey. So, you know, this lady is, in my book, she's my role model. I mean, I do half marathons, big deal. This person is amazing for everything that she has done. She's lost count of the seasons that she's participated in, I'm sure. But Audrey and I had a really long talk when we were doing the Mayor's Marathon in Alaska once, and I found out some things I didn't even know about what she's been through. And I want her to share with all of you, because there are many of you here that don't know her story. And I actually first met her at a Team in Training Nike Town event, info something meeting, where she had just come back from her bone marrow transplant, and she was bald, and she was beautiful. So please tell us your story.
Thank you, everybody. I just want to say, you guys probably have better things to do on Saturday mornings or Sunday. I know that West Side team trains on Sunday and standing out in the rain. But I cannot thank you guys enough for what you do to raise money for research. Like my friend Lizzie said, there is no cure for the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that I have. I was diagnosed, you know, this is a beautiful thing to say, 13 years ago, Doc, 13 years ago. I was told life expectancy is 10 years. And unfortunately, I've had to battle lymphoma twice. I had my third cancer last year. I've gone through 36 rounds of chemo, 34 rounds of Rituxan, a bone marrow transplant, 6 surgeries, and I think I'm on my 60th IVIG treatment, which I'll get next Friday, and that's an ongoing thing. I share this with you because the treatments that we're on, it either will destroy you, or it'll cure you, or it'll help you live a longer life. And I can say yes to all of those. I'm living a longer life, but my body has been destroyed, because now the fear is, if I have to deal with my lymphoma again, is my body, my heart and lungs strong enough to go through any more chemotherapy? So it's I guess you can say in my book, urgency to find those drugs that you were talking about that's more targeted to the cancer cells as opposed to destroying everything else in the body. I am blessed with the strong faith and knowing that regardless as to what happens to me, I see all of you guys. I know I'm not battling alone. And that's probably like the biggest thing that any survivor or anybody who's going through cancer is to realize that they're not battling this disease alone, because it is scary. You're scared of the unknown. You're scared of death. But seeing everybody out here, seeing the people who joined Team Audrey, seeing the people that are just part of the regular season, trying to do something to save somebody's life, it's so rewarding. And for that, I no longer fear. I know I'm not battling alone. I know that whatever God has in store for me, I think it's 43, not that I kind of remembered, but Elise had asked me how many events I've done. I fundraised 43 events with Team in Training. And it's not a matter of to say, look what I can do, but look what I can do because of people like you. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you guys so much for what you do, because I am truly, truly blessed, and I thank you all for what you do. Go team.